The Schrödinger equation of quantum mechanics teaches us how a wave function evolves with time. But surprisingly, the final result is just a probability distribution of what events can occur and what is the probability of each event. But what does that have to do with religion? Let's explore. Good day, everyone. Many natural phenomena have been quite mysterious to human beings. So, for example, people pondered why the rain would fall down. They prayed to God that rain will come down because they couldn't understand it. But then we understand the water cycle. We understand that the sun would heat the oceans and the seas, and water would evaporate, and then it will condense into clouds, and then rain will come down. We thought that we understand how reality works. But then we got to learn about quantum mechanics, and we understood that we really did not understand how reality works, because the very fabric of reality, at least the mathematical models that describe it, seem to be interestingly unpredictable. The wave function will tell you that those events will evolve the state of a particle, but it does not tell you, counter to all our classical physics, it will not tell you what is the exact status of that particle after a little amount of time. We have always been used to using traditional physical formulas like Newtonian mechanics, where, for example, you will have a differential equation that will specify how a particle will move under the effect of a force, and you have a second derivative that is dependent on the force that will give you the acceleration. You will have the velocity by knowing the initial position of the particle and how much time will pass and the forces that are applied. You can specifically calculate the location of that particle after that time has passed. But then quantum mechanics came into the picture, and a particle that is under the domain of quantum mechanics, which is essentially every particle, but when particles or things get bigger, another thing called decoherence makes the effects, the quantum effects, not that much. But when you have a small particle that is not subject to decoherence easily, like a bigger particle, like an electron, for example, if you know the initial state of that electron, you cannot know what will exactly be that final state of that same electron after some time. Actually, we have even learned that we cannot essentially know the initial state of any quantum particle with complete accuracy. If you try to understand one of its properties, it means that the other property will not be known with a good level of certainty if you know the first one at a better level of certainty, which is called Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So what does all of that have to do with religion? Now we look at that cloud that might cause rain or might not cause rain. But how does rain happen? Well, rain happens when a specific domino effect takes place within that cloud. There needs to be an initial spark, and then rain, bigger particles of rain, will start falling down. But what is that initial spark? You know, the clouds are moving and they are rubbing against the atmosphere and against things, and they become charged, and then suddenly one cloud will discharge and the reaction will start. But then we ask a question. Those particles that are going to spark are essentially electrons, and electrons follow quantum mechanics in their behavior. So if you look at the equation that defines how the electron is going to behave, who really decides, who really determines what will happen to the electron in this coming instant? What pushes the wave function so that the electron will go this way or that way? Almost in all divine religions, God asserts that He is the one who causes the rain to fall. He also asserts that there are specific angels who are responsible for specific physical phenomena, for example, like weather, like rain. And it occurs to us after we have grown into arrogance that we really understand everything, that we don't really understand those very things that we thought we understood. Weather is very chaotic. We can estimate it on the larger scale, but we cannot really be sure how it will work on the micro scale, the specific place, the specific event, the specific point of time. We cannot really be sure. We cannot really be sure if this specific cloud will rain at that specific place or the other specific place. But what if what is meant is that those angels will push the quantum events this way or that way according to God's will? Does that have something to do with one of God's attributes, which is that He is subtle? God describes Himself in the final message to humanity in the Quran that He is latif, that He is subtle. He also describes Himself as being witness over everything, and we have talked about that in the previous episode, where we have shown that having an observer is quite essential for quantum events to collapse and move from the probability world to the real world. But can this subtlety also be explained that at the root level of reality, God is controlling every single quantum event? When you pray to God for rain, and God says that there are angels who are responsible of rain, can it be that those angels will then, according to the acceptance of your prayers, push the probability functions of those specific electrons so the electric spark will happen at your exact location, and this one cloud will cause rain to fall at your city or your village? If you look at our very existence, at the molecular level, there are those molecular things that are called DNA, and the DNA as a molecule, there are those nucleotides and there are those genes that get expressed. But the expression of those genes is controlled by mechanisms like epigenetics. We have cells in our body, and those cells have mechanisms which programs the time the cell dies. But when the cell should die and it refuses to die, what happens? Cancer happens. But the cell refusing to die, refusing to run its death program, is at the end of the day molecular events that takes place at the very quantum level of events. So would an angel push that event to happen or not to happen? And when you pray to God for something that human knowledge cannot cure you from, will that prayer then cause maybe the cell or that number of cells to change their mind and they die away peacefully, and then you are cured? Viruses are molecular machines. Why would you catch a disease and somebody else does not catch a disease? Why would this virus cause lysis and cause protection with somebody else? Another phenomenon called isogeny. If God is controlling events at that subtle level, if God is appointing angels to control every quantum event around us, it is essentially reflecting a world that we see on the macro level as very deterministic. What we have learned on that on the very micro level, it is not as such. So did really science negate the reasons for us to pray to God? Because materialists and naturalists think that prayers will not work because, laws of physics say that things are completely causal and completely predictable? Or what has happened essentially is that our understanding of physics, the more it grows, we more and more understand that things are not as predictable as we thought, and that somebody might catch a disease or get cured from a disease in very subtle ways, that it might rain or not rain in very subtle ways, that there might be a tornado tomorrow or no tornado tomorrow with very subtle ways, there might be a flood or no flood in very subtle ways. I leave you with the thought until we meet again and ponder on the reality of the world we live in to find more truth. See you again soon.